rapid fire takes on new faces and new places. Let's go with Chris Paul. Tunde, you up first.
My first thought was so fuck Jordan Poole, huh? It was literally the exact words out of my mouth. Um, Jordan Poole played 82 games last year. I would bet a lot of money that Chris Paul would not play 82 games this year. It's interesting. There's a lot of ways this could work on offense, and I could see it. I could see it happening. Also, a lot of ways this could go wrong. We'll be tuning in to find out what happens.
Chaz, Chris Paul.
Yeah, I think this is more of a postseason move instead of a regular season. I think they're okay with not being as good throughout the regular season. They feel like if they're healthy in the postseason, they're going to have a chance to compete for a Western Conference Finals berth. I think that's probably the case, but a lot is going to have to go right, which already with the Draymond Green injury and this team being one of the oldest teams in the league, it's not really something that I know if I can count on. But you have Steph Curry. You now have a guy with Chris Paul that's always going to be looking for Curry, Klay Thompson, to set up the entire roster. So I think it's an addition that probably helps, but there are going to be some kind of awkward moments. I feel like with that lineup in there with those three guards, you also might have issues on defense at times that you're going to have to cover up. But if everybody's healthy, you have Wiggins, you have Moody and Kuminga presumably improving a little bit to go with the big three of Curry, Klay, and Draymond. I think this team is going to have a chance to make a run.
Yeah, I think this Warrior teams come down to three elements. They're not really a regular season team, so they're not really going to go for any of those type of awards. They're a postseason team. For one, I think it's going to come down to Klay Thompson's play. How is Klay Thompson going to be able to produce in the playoffs? If he replicates what happened in the Lakers series, it's going to be a long playoff run for this Golden State team. It's going to be a quick one. Actually, they're going to be out the first round or the second round if they even make it that far. If Klay Thompson's playing the way that he played last year, Chris Paul dynamic to being able to come off the bench if need be. I believe Chris Paul is tailored for that second unit. You have Kuminga, who's showing really, really great potential right now. I know it's preseason, but also it showed a lot in the offseason. And a lot of said that this man was like fucking 7'1", 7'2". Like, no. Like, come on, stop lying. Moody, is he able to make? They said that shit. They said that shit in the offseason. Talk about this man that had a growth
ball sack sports reports. Come on, man.
Yeah,
like they had a growth. No, Andre Iguodala said this man grew. Like Andre,
yeah, but then
stop lying.
Then they took it and ran with it that he was like 7'2", 7'3", and people
Yeah,
felt
Andre, why would you put that out there like that? Come on, Andre Iguodala. Like, come on. Shit, but it's going to be up to can they make the leap, that 3rd-year leap? Can those two make that leap? So I think it's going to come down to Chris Paul, who fits seamlessly with that second unit. The pick and roll with Kuminga, with Kevon Looney, with Draymond is going to be chef's kiss if he accept that type of role of, although he's going to start, and we all know he's going to start, but I think what they're going to try to do is maybe play him 3 to 4 minutes with that starting unit, but really use him more so in that second unit role. And I think they'll try to mix it up like that. And then third, Draymond Green. If Draymond can get some type of shot, I don't know where the fuck the shot went since 2016, 2017, but the shot is gone. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what the fuck happened to the shot, but he can't shoot. He can't. He's passing up wide open layups, for crying out loud. I mean, if he's doing that this season, this team isn't going to go very far. So Klay Thompson, Chris Paul, willingness to come, play that second role to get those players up to speed, and Draymond Green. I think that their season really depends on them. I already know what Steph Curry is going to do. It's everyone else. So I think that's what the season comes down to with the Warriors.
Yeah, well, this is a team that's gotten a lot of talk over the summer, and a team that people think is going to compete for a championship, and that's the Phoenix Suns. We haven't really talked much since they traded for Bradley Beal right before the draft in June. But that's a team that it looks kind of clunky, with no true point guard. But when they're out on the court, the offense is pretty much unstoppable. You have three guys that are great with the ball in their hands, can create for themselves at ease, and then also have the ability to create for others. What do you guys think of that Bradley Beal addition to the Suns, who a lot of people think, are the biggest challenger to the Nuggets out west?
Well, he's going to play point guard, right? They said he's going to play point guard.
I mean, that's what they said, but I feel like Booker is probably going to handle the ball just as much, if not more.
it's like they're flying under the radar, but they have like this high-powered offense and like this high-powered team, and they're just like no one's talking about them for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know. That's kind of weird to me. Um, I mean, they have three really good, like really great offensive players. They they have one of the greatest scorers of all time in Kevin Durant, and Booker's no slouch, and Beal was no slouch either. I just where's the defense going to come from this team? I just want to you're going to score 110, 120 points a game, but yeah, when you can match that and there's teams that can match that, I believe the Nuggets can match that. I believe the Warriors can match that offensive firepower. I believe the Lakers can match that offensive firepower. If they need to score 110, 150 points, I believe they can. But who are they going to stop when it comes down to it? So I think it really depends on their willingness to play defense. They have the ability to. They all have the capacity to do it. They just have to buy into, they have a defensive minded coach now. So they just have to buy into the defensive side of the ball, and they'll be okay.
I'm very excited to see how somebody like Frank Vogel uh, has to try to figure out a way to, you know, to coach a top level defensive unit with Yusuf Nurkic as his starting center. Very, very like this is I'm like I'm not even on on no snarky shit or anything like that. I'm interested in seeing just how this works. I imagine he will be in a drop a lot of the time, or and maybe not even a super deep one at times. But I don't think they're gonna want to hedge with him. I mean, in general, we don't really hedge at the NBA level because the ball handlers are too good. And then obviously he's not a guy you want to switch, or even really play at the level of the screen. And I'm genuinely curious to see how this works out.
I'm going to say something. I don't even think it's a hot take, but I'm going to say it. It might be a hot take. I'm not sure. I don't think Phoenix reaches the conference finals.
I mean,
I don't think they reach the conference finals this year. So
You have
I
a team
mean,
that you
if
think does?
I think the Clippers have a really good. That's to see. I've been saying the Clippers for years now, but
what did we just
Kawhi.
say about J. Cole?
I know, right? But the Clippers to me have the best roster on paper every year for the last at least 3 years. I believe they've had the best roster on paper, and every single year, injuries, injuries, injuries. If they can stay healthy, I think the Clippers could go to the finals. Like, but it depends. Again, I know what you're talking about with J. Cole. I'm just saying, I believe that they have the talent to do that. They have the roster to do that. They have the coach to do that. Everything else is just about injuries and health and shit.
With all due respect to Kawhi Leonard, he has not finished a season healthy since 2016.
Yeah.
I just he plays for the Clippers almost as often as the three of us play for the Clippers.
Yeah.
I just at some point, like it just is what it is. It sucks. I would love to see him stay healthy as just a fan of the game of basketball. We can be honest with ourselves and like just acknowledge it's probably not gonna happen though.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think, and we got to get to another topic here, but I do think that I think it's the West is. I mean, I think the East is. We're going to get into it. The East is the East is so compacted with two teams. I think the West 12, 11, 12 teams can make some noise. I think the New Orleans Pelicans have a really good chance of making a lot of noise this year. But again, it just depends on health, and this stuff plays a factor into it. So
Yeah, I mean, just to close out the Bradley Beal thing, I do think this is a team that can challenge the Nuggets. I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to get to the conference finals, but I do think they are going to be a better team than they were last year. It seemed like Chris Paul wasn't really able to add that much in the postseason with that team. Even before the injury, they were kind of struggling against the Nuggets. And then DeAndre Ayton, it seemed like his time had just come to an end there. So they flip him in that Dame trade. They
He's
end up,
so happy.
yeah,
I want
he
to be that guy. He's happy as hell.
and
He's happy and
I don't necessarily know that Yusuf Nurkic is the guy that's going to come in and be able to replace what DeAndre Ayton does, but I think he's going to be more willing to do so. He's also a big body that can go up against a guy like Nikola Jokic in the playoffs if that series were come to fruition. DeAndre Ayton, he didn't seem like he was up to the task in that series. He really wanted no part of Jokic. He kind of shied away from him in post situations and under the rim, whether it be going for rebounds or just being physical underneath the basket in general. Nurkic is not really, a great defender by any means. He's actually pretty slow-footed and struggles on that end at times, but he is a big body that will take up space. He's also a guy that can play make a little bit through the post, which isn't something that Ayton did really. So, like I said, the offense is going to be lethal. I went to their preseason opener, against the Pistons last weekend, and they scored like 46 points in the first quarter. I mean, there's going to be no issues on that end of the floor, Danny. Like you said, though, it's going to be, can they get stops when it comes to be? And I think a question is, how's that depth going to look? That's something that we talked about going into the postseason last year, and that kind of held them up. And it's a question right now. They went out and got a guy like Eric Gordon, who, if he can stay healthy, he was probably a good weak side shooter that they can have in that, but he's not a guy that you can count on defensively either. So it's going to kind of see how they play throughout the season. Can a guy like Chimezie Metu step up and be somebody that can actually be in the rotation? Are there other guys that can actually become rotation players? So that's a team that I feel like their ceiling is probably Western Conference Finals, maybe Finals, but I'm not ready to say that they're there yet.
Grant Williams is going to guard multiple positions on a team that really, really struggled defensively in all facets last year. Is going to give them a guy who can, guard, threes and fours, maybe even select twos. So, and, a lot of fives, honestly. So that's positional versatility, like they just did not have on the roster last year. Along with shooting and spacing to maintain what they do offensively. You combine that with some, guys like Josh Green, who I expect to kind of take a bit of a leap this year. And I personally see Dallas being a better team than they were last year. I don't know if that's going to be enough to, put them in the playoffs. We'll see how all that goes.
Damn.
But no, it's not even disrespect. The West is loaded. If we went down a list of all of the teams in the West, you would probably come away with like 10 or 11 teams that we would think on paper are playoff caliber. 3 of them are not going to be, top 8 teams and playing in the playoffs. So, it's going to be some good basketball teams that don't make it.
Tunde, you mentioned Grant Williams. I think there's a couple other guys at that level that were kind of important. Marcus Smart going from the Celtics to the Grizzlies, he's going to be really impactful, especially with Ja Morant missing, those first 25 games. I think a guy like Bruce Brown, we saw how big of an impact he had with the Nuggets. Now he's going over to the Pacers. Are the Nuggets going to be able to replace him? And are the Pacers, how good of a team are they going to be? Are they somebody that can compete for the 8 seed, 7 seed in the Eastern Conference? And then another guy that I wanted to mention was John Collins. It seemed like he was kind of frustrated with Atlanta the last couple of years. They finally shipped him out to Utah. I don't know if Utah's a team that is going to be in the playoff, but we saw last year, no matter who's on the floor, they're going to compete. Now they add a guy like Keontae George, who is one of my favorite rookies, and a guy like John Collins, who's an established lob threat and a scoring threat. So I think that is a team that also got a little bit better.
Chaz, if you wanted to touch on all 30 teams, you just say that. He just wanted to. We're going to talk about all 30 teams making these moves. Everybody.
I just love it. So